Hello and welcome back to the SuperCoach Corner podcast for another team preview where we look at Geelong today. Das, any SuperCoach relevance in Geelong this year?
Tyus, I've got a feeling this could be one of our shorter episodes. There's not many guys. You look at the highest owned player, it's Tanner Bruhn at 6.7%, which is crazy work. So, keen to get stuck into it, but I don't think there'll be many guys that'll be featuring in many round one sides at this stage. But before we do get stuck into the rookies, as always, mate, just thought we'd give a quick shout out to our socials. Follow us on all the socials, and also if you go in there, you'll see we do have a few leagues running at the moment. So if you are interested in getting into a few cash leagues, a bit of friendly competitiveness, you want to take out some SuperCoach glory this year, feel free to follow the instructions on our pages or shoot us a message if you have any questions. We'll also be running a draft league as well. So if you're a draft guru or you're looking to get into a SuperCoach draft, it is a lot of fun. So there'll be a lot of information coming out on our socials about that as well. But without further ado, Tyus, we'll get stuck into the rookies. And look, as we touched on, it's bare bones out here for the Cats. They're well known for just having their role players, and role players don't translate very well to SuperCoach scoring. So, in terms of the rookies, probably only one guy that stands out, and for me, it's a hard pass because we've seen this story before. It's Jai Clark at 178k. I know he gets games sometimes, and he's going to avoid the sub vest this year, which is good, but I just don't see that. He's never shown in his years in the system to have any sort of SuperCoach scoring ability. So, that price, I think there's much better options.
Yeah, the notorious sub for Geelong is going to be a hard pass for me too. It's 178k. It's too much to buy for a guy that doesn't have a solidified role in that side either. So if he's named round one, it's probably still a pass for me. Unless we see something in the preseason. So, but like you said, yeah, it's very slim pickings in this rookie category for Geelong. There's another guy that's the third most owned for Geelong, Matafai Forbes, who's I think only because he's 99k defender forward. So he's there's no talk about him being in Geelong starting side. So let's move to the mid prices and let's go to the defence in someone that might be a bit more relevant. And I think that Geelong have a few guys that are probably flying under the radar in ownership. But yeah, I can see why they're not as relevant. First guy we're going to talk about, it probably is less relevant, but Sam de Koning, if he's going to get that number one ruck again, do you see him being a possible starting option? Do you see him even getting that number one ruck?
No, I don't.
At the start of last year?
I think he might. I think it could be a similar story to last year. I think he might start with it. I think Reece Stanley's sort of battling a little bit of an injury at the moment, so he might struggle for round one. But so he might start it. Toby Conway is still someone who they see as their long-term ruck, but again, he's also not fit at the moment, so he could start it. But yeah, I didn't see enough from it last year. I started him last year at a very similar price. He had a good round one and then sort of struggled after that. So, and then ended up going back to key back. So, yeah, not for me at that price.
Same? That's an easy pass. Yeah, easy pass for me as well. But let's move into their midfield where they've actually got a few guys we might talk about for a bit in the mid-price category. First guy is Tanner Bruhn. He is 276k. He's only 6.8% owned. Should he not be in a lot more sides because he's severely underpriced?
Yeah, it sort of surprised me a little bit at that ownership. He seems to be training really well from all reports, and I sort of expect him to just slot straight back into that Geelong lineup. He is a very, very talented player. And I think he's seen as a long-term midfielder for Geelong and someone that can really complement, Max Holmes and Bailey Smith pretty nicely. So I think I can only see that ownership rise all the way to round one. So I don't think we'll head into the season at 6.7% owned. And if that's the case, I think it's a nice little pod. But I really like Tanner Bruhn. He's in my side at the moment. I think he's in yours.
Yeah, he's in mine currently, mainly just due to the fact he started 2025, like obviously didn't play a game in 2025, but he started at 393k. So if you're getting a guy that's then had a whole year and a half to develop his body and a whole full preseason, for someone that's 120k under his price from last year, think it's pretty good value buying. The only caveat I have against Tanner Bruhn is the fact that they brought in James Worpel, who we'll get to in a second, and Ollie Dempsey is reportedly playing midfield. So it's kind of we need to wait and see what their lineup, what his role is going to be. But at the moment, he's pretty firmly locked in my side.
Yeah, I agree. I'd like to see the makeup of that midfield, but I still think he'll get good midfield minutes. James Worpel, as you mentioned, Tice is the next one we'll touch on. He's at 403k as a midfielder, and like coming across from Hawthorn. Do you think there's any way that he could push into that top echelon of mids? I think for me, it's just like he'll continue to hover around that 450 to 480k. Might push up. He'll average you 90, 95, but I don't see him setting the world alight. And, especially in a new club where you don't really know what you're going to get. He's one that I'm not really that interested in.
Yeah, I think he's going to complement Bailey Smith and Max Holmes a lot more. Like he's probably a better fit for that Geelong midfield than he is for that Hawthorn midfield. So that goes in his favour in terms of an AFL point of view. But from a SuperCoach point of view, he's just going to give you that 90, 95 average. He might be a bit more consistent, but it's probably not enough to pick him at 403k. So yeah, probably a good pass on that one. The other guy that like I mentioned before, Ollie Dempsey, however, in the midfield, reports are saying he's playing inside mid in match sim. Is that not appealing to you with his class?
Yeah, it could be. I think the price is at 420k. You need a big jump from there. Like you need him to go to that A tier to sort of make that pick worth it for mine. Like you want him pushing over 500k, 550, and I don't think he's going to be like a 70+% CBA midfielder. I just don't see that happening. I think they may be training him in there to add that string to his bow if they need it, but he's one of the best wingers in the comp. I think he'll stay out in the wing, and it's a real weapon of theirs to have him out there. So yeah, I think this could be just one of those preseason traps that some people might fall into. I don't see it as a long-term sustainable SuperCoach option.
Yeah, me neither. 423k is a lot to invest in someone that might have the role. So it's probably a nice little pass as well. You mentioned before in the ruck line, Toby Conway. Does he what's his injury looking like? Is he looking like he's going to play games? He's at 301k at the moment. Do you see him being in your side at some point throughout the year?
Potentially, but yeah, he's injured all the time. They're really taking the long approach with Toby Conway. I think they see him in their long-term future, but again, from what I've heard, he's not going to be fit for the start of the year. So if he can get into the side, number one ruck for a bit, it's a nice price at 300k. But yeah, I think for now, it's one we can definitely look past. And he's never really had a good run at AFL level, so he's sort of an unproven prospect at this stage. So yeah, I'm happy to leave him as well. Moving into the Primos, Tice, start defense. I'm surprised he hasn't started in your side because I swear this guy starts in your side every single year. Tom Stewart at just over 500k. He still scores well. He had a couple of injury-interrupted games last year. And for what he can produce, it's a nice price. Is there any interest there? He's like a good point of difference at this stage.
Yeah, I can't lie to you and say there's no interest because I always look at Tom Stewart. I think he's just too good of a footballer, but he's obviously getting on in age a little bit. He's getting those injuries. Just he had too many last year for me. And then when he was back playing a couple of games, he dropped a couple of 70s and 60s even in full games. So it looks like because Connor O'Sullivan is there, he's not got that role that we wanted him for, because Connor O'Sullivan is sort of taking that away from him a little bit. So not as much interest this year, but look, if he's going to tear up the track again, maybe he sneaks into my side, but yeah, not at the moment, not especially with the round 2 bye and the double bye for Geelong. So yeah, it's probably a nice little pass there.
Yeah, no, I'm in the same boat as you. What about the midfield duo in Max Holmes and Bailey Smith? Both at sitting over 600k. Max Holmes, smack bang on 600k, and then Bailey Smith at 638k. Yeah, are you interested at all? Obviously, Max Holmes had that defender DVP last year, which was really handy. But he's a mid only this year, both, and same likewise for Bailey Smith was a forward last year, but both of them just mid only this year. It makes them a lot less appealing, but I don't think it rules out their relevancy altogether. I think this happens a few times each year where, someone who's really Supercoach relevant the year prior because of having forward or defensive eligibility loses it, and then people just forget about them and think they're not a good pick anymore. Do you
Mhm.
see Max Holmes or Bailey Smith being a high-end Supercoach player this year?
Yeah, I see Bailey Smith. I had him in my top rankings for midfielders. So you're talking about a guy. Yes, he was picked as a forward last year, and that's what made him so appealing. You're talking about a guy that averaged 118 across the whole year. He is the main guy there, and if you've got a guy averaging 118, he's clearly going to be a top premium midfielder. We had him as a forward. Why? Why? Because he's lost his forward status. Do people think that no, I can't pick him now? He's only in 6% of sides. There's a world where I start Bailey Smith. The only thing that's scaring me off from it is the fact that they've got the round 2 bye. He's going to be so relevant. One of the top midfielders that you have to have in your side by the end of the year, in my eyes. He just owns Geelong really at the moment. Are you not as hot on Bailey Smith as I am?
No, not as hot. I think I can't see a world where last year wasn't his best year. I think that it is his career year. I know he's still young, but I just can't see him topping what he produced last year. And like you said, I can see him finishing that top 8, top 10 mids, but I just think we can buy him for cheaper than 640k. So, yeah, I'm not keen on starting him. I think he might get tagged, and then you can end up picking him around 560, 570 at some stage. So, yeah, he's not, especially with the early buy, not someone that I'll be looking at to start the year.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. And like I do agree to the extent, like when you're buying someone over 600k, you've got to be pretty certain that
Mm.
they're not going to drop below 600k, and he will give you, he might give you that odd game here and there. Like he dropped a 70 and 170 last year, and the rest were 80 plus. Like he had an 81. You're banking on two 80s back to back to maybe see a relevant enough drop to pick him up. Like his floor is so high, and like not a huge fan of the bloke himself, but the Supercoach relevance is there for sure. And if he's going to, keep me up there in Supercoach, I'm definitely going to be looking at him. The other guy you mentioned was Max Holmes. He still has relevance, even though he's lost his defender status. But he averaged 110 last year. Yeah, showed really like he can dominate games, dropping the 150 plus scores, but he can also drop you the lower scores.
Yeah.
He's a bit more volatile than Bailey Smith, so I think he's an easier pass at 600k for me. You'll be able to pick him up a lot cheaper. If he drops below 500k, he's going to be someone that is in everyone's side. So I like Max Holmes as well, though.
Yeah, I'm probably more hot on Max Holmes than Bailey Smith just because of the price difference. I think Max Holmes has more to give. I think he can take the game to the next level. But again, the round 2 buy, the price, it's too hard to start for me. So I'm happy to just wait and, like you said, pick him up at a nicer price later in the year. In terms of the forwards ties, not much down there. Jeremy Cameron has been relevant, but he's still recovering from that broken arm from the grand final. So from all reports, he's not fully training yet, and I don't think he'll be fit to start the year. So, look, he's one that we could definitely look at. Hopefully, at some stage, if he drops under 400k, which the volatility of key forwards, they definitely can with a couple of low scores. So, one to watch. Graham Myers, Tice, is sitting at over 500k after a really good year last year. He had some time in the midfield, and I think might even expand on that this year. I think he's one that'll fly under the radar. Look, he's only in 0.7% of sides. But I think there's too much value up forward to start him.
Yeah, I do agree with that. He is going to fly under the radar, but 510k, yeah, it's a lot buying. You need to be locking that away as one of your main premiums in there. And we saw it at the start of the year. If he's going to just play half forward, he's not going to have the top end scores that you want. As soon as he got to midfield time, he was producing some really nice scores last year. He had a stretch between like after their bye and round 23, he didn't drop below 96 and produce some 130 plus scores as well. So that's why he's at his inflated price. If we see more midfield time, we just need to see that midfield dynamic. We noted it before with Tanner Bruhn, Warple, and Ollie Dempsey. We've got to see how their midfield structures up before you even go near Brian Myers, in my opinion. But that probably wraps up the Geelong preview. Pretty short one in terms of the players. In the early fixture, they do have a tough early fixture. They're, I guess, quote unquote, easier games, or like playing what people predict as the lower end part of the ladder more later in the year. So it might be a good time to target your Bailey Smith or Max Holmes if you like either of them, or Jeremy Cameron if he's back and firing and looking to kick a bag. Yeah, maybe towards the back end of the year. But in terms of your prediction of Geelong, Das, where do you see Geelong finishing this year?
Yeah, I think they'll be there or thereabouts again. I can't see much of a drop off from Geelong. I think the addition of Tanner Bruhn and James Warple into that side will be big for them. And hopefully, if they can get Tom Stewart getting his body right, potentially a strong ruckman and Toby Conway putting his game together, I think they could challenge again. I think top four is well and truly on the cards for them.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. People write them off each year, and then they just seem to produce it every year, and they've only gotten stronger this year. So you can't really say that they're going to fall off. Yeah, they'll be playing finals for sure and pushing that top four. But yeah, that's probably it for the Geelong team preview. Yeah, we'll move on to Gold Coast in the next one. Thanks for having me, Das.
Perfect. Thanks, Dice.
Cheers, mate.